Rurouni Kenshin, the final. So for those of you who are not familiar, this is actually based off a manga of the same name, Rurouni Kenshin, by Nobuhiro Watsuki, which was also adapted into an anime in the 90s, and then we actually got the first 3 films came out between 2012 and 2014. And this is part 4 of that series, even though I recommend you watch this last, because this one and Rurouni Kenshin, the beginning, were released at the same time, but I recommend you watch the beginning first, as the title would imply. So again, a quick recap of Rurouni Kenshin is that it's about an assassin during the Bakumatsu, which was the final bloody days of the revolution that took place in 1800s Japan, which led to the Meiji era, which was a transitional period in time for Japan to modernize into present day. And since that revolution, that assassin, Kenshin Himura, has taken a vow to never kill again. But unfortunately, ghosts from his past not only threaten him and his loved ones, but all of Japan altogether. So these 2 films capture Kenshin's assassin days, leading to a very tragic love story where he accidentally killed his own wife. And so the main bad this time is a man named Inishi, who happens to be the brother of this said wife. And Inishi, despite being young, is a real mean mother who's coming with weapon dealings and bringing in old warriors and bringing outright war to Kenshin's town, all in the name of vengeance. And so the dynamic between Kenshin and Inishi is surprisingly an emotional story, especially as they're looking to repent for a lot of their past sins. And of course, the action in this movie is top-notch. We get some crazy choreography and fight scenes, especially the final one. And the thing is, you can feel the force between some of these actions. It's really mind-boggling, especially as you're seeing different martial arts styles combating against each other. And some of the warrior characters that Inishi brings in really show that this was originally based off a manga. This is what you would call very anime-like, in the sense that the costumes are a little bit silly, they have sort of unorthodox fighting moves, something that wouldn't really mesh well with the current time period. And they do feel a little bit like a distraction compared to the main plot of the film. Otherwise, you're going to see some returning characters from the first 3 films, including Kaoru, Sanosuke, Yahiko, Misao, Lord Aoshi, etc. And this is sort of like a nice little final hurrah for all these characters to come together and fight and bring an end to this one large story. But if there's anything I have to be a little disappointed with is I feel like there's not much finality to the overarching story. I mean, the final shot does feel sort of conclusive to this particular story, but as far as Kenshin's journey goes, I feel like it could continue on. Because the one thing we have to compare this to is there was an animated adaptation called Samurai X Trust and Betrayal, where we actually saw a very conclusive end to Kenshin's story as well as his life. Now, I haven't seen the 3rd film where it's titled The Legend Ends, so I can't help but feel like maybe they had a more conclusive finale there. So I would have to go see that to make sure, but it's certainly not here in this movie. And it's unfortunate that Netflix released these 2 movies together, but without releasing the original trilogy, because a lot of audiences coming in are not going to really understand the context of these characters and why their journeys are so important. Unless they're familiar with the original anime or manga, I feel like a lot of viewers are going to be lost. And the film doesn't do a heck of a lot to really bring audiences up to date, which I mean, I'm not sure why they would, since this is originally from Japan. So judging this movie on its own merits, I think it's a pretty solid story and action movie, but at the same time, I feel like it sort of stretches the original story that we had in the original trilogy. You know, being a huge fan of Rurouni Kenshin back in the day, I feel like this film wasn't as good as it could have been. And that's why Rurouni Kenshin, the final, gets my score of 3 stars. It's a pretty solid flick, but it's not as conclusive as it could be, and it has a few other flaws as well that might alienate certain audiences. So guys, thanks as always for watching. Have you all seen Rurouni Kenshin, the final, or anything Rurouni Kenshin? If not, what else have you been watching lately? Comment below, let me know, and stay tuned right here if you all want to see more.